It happened in a flash. One of those moments that blindsides you so hard, you can't even process it right away. We were at Olivia's birthday party, a massive gathering full of noise, laughter, and overpriced cocktails. Rachel had insisted we go, practically dragging me along despite my protests. "You never like to have fun," she teased with that smirk she uses when she's not really joking. The night was chaotic. Olivia rented out this fancy rooftop bar, with a DJ spinning tracks loud enough to rattle your teeth. Rachel was in her element, weaving through the crowd like she owned the place. I mostly hung back, nursing my drink and nodding through half-hearted small talk with people I didn't care to know. Then I saw her. Not Rachel, the Rachel I thought I knew, but her. A version of her I didn't recognize. She was standing across the room, her head tilted toward Jason, my supposed best friend. His hand rested casually on her lower back. His face lit up with a smile I hadn't seen in months. It hit me like a sucker punch. The way her body leaned into his, the flick of her hair as she laughed at something he said, the soft touch of her fingers brushing his forearm. It was too familiar, too intimate. I tried to play it cool, but my drink suddenly tasted like ash. I made my way closer, pretending to join a nearby conversation, but my focus was razor-sharp. Jason said something, and Rachel threw her head back, laughing like he'd told the funniest joke in the world. She touched his arm again, her nails tracing light circles. It wasn't innocent. I didn't want to believe what I was seeing, but every instinct screamed at me that something was wrong. My heart hammered in my chest as I scanned the room for Olivia. If anyone knew what was going on, it'd be her. When I found her, she was tipsy but coherent, sipping a bright pink cocktail. "Hey," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's up with Rachel and Jason tonight? They seem close." Her expression froze for a fraction of a second before she plastered on a too-wide smile. "Oh, you know Rachel. She's just friendly. Jason too. Nothing to worry about." It was a lie. I could tell by the way her eyes darted to the side, avoiding mine. "Olivia," I pressed, my tone sharper now. "If there's something you're not telling me, now's the time." She hesitated, her face flushing. "Look, I don't want to get involved. Okay? Just, maybe you should talk to Rachel. Or Jason." Her words were like gasoline on an open flame. My pulse roared in my ears as I turned back to the crowd, scanning for them. Rachel was no longer where I'd seen her, and Jason had disappeared too. I felt like a man on a sinking ship, scrambling for a life raft. Every laugh, every clink of a glass, every swirl of lights blurred together as I searched. Then, just as panic threatened to overtake me, I saw them again, slipping out the side door, together. The air in the room felt electric, buzzing with the weight of what I was about to uncover. I didn't think. I just moved. The moment I saw them slipping through that side door, my legs carried me across the room before my brain could catch up. Every instinct screamed at me to stop them, to demand answers. The music thumped behind me as I pushed through the door into the dimly lit corridor. It was quieter here, the muffled bass from the party fading into the background. I spotted them immediately, halfway down the hallway near the exit to the rooftop stairs. Jason had his hand on Rachel's arm, his body angled toward her, his face close enough that I could see the glint of his stupid, cocky grin.
Rachel wasn't pulling away.
They didn't notice me at first, too wrapped up in their little bubble. Jason said something, his voice low and smooth. Rachel laughed, a soft, breathy sound that made my stomach twist. It wasn't the laugh she gave me. It was something different, something I hadn't heard in a long time. "Rachel." My voice cut through the air like a whip. They froze. Jason's grin vanished, and Rachel whipped her head toward me. Her face flashed with something. Guilt? Annoyance? It was gone in an instant, replaced by an exaggerated smile. "Hey, babe," she chirped, like I just caught her chatting with a coworker at lunch. She even had the audacity to take a step toward me, as if nothing was wrong. "What are you doing out here?" "What am I doing here?" I shot back, my voice rising. "The better question is, what are you doing sneaking out with him?" I pointed at Jason, who had the decency to at least look uncomfortable, though he didn't move away from her. "Relax," she said, rolling her eyes. "We were just getting some air. The party's so loud, and I needed a minute to clear my head. With Jason." I asked, my tone sharp. Since when do you two need alone time? Jason finally spoke up, raising his hands like he was trying to calm a wild animal. Hey man, it's not what it looks like. I was just... Shut up, I snapped, cutting him off. My eyes stayed locked on Rachel. Don't tell me to relax, Rachel. Don't insult me like that. I'm not blind. Her smile faltered, replaced by a defensive sneer. God, you're so paranoid. Can't I talk to a friend without you freaking out? A friend, I repeated, the word dripping with venom. You don't look like you're just talking. You look like... My voice cracked, anger and disbelief tangling in my throat. You look like you're hiding something. Rachel crossed her arms, her posture defiant. You're being ridiculous. This is why I didn't tell you. I knew you'd blow it out of proportion. Didn't tell me what? I demanded, stepping closer. Jason shuffled back, wisely deciding to let her fend for herself. Go on, Rachel. If it's so innocent, why wouldn't you tell me? She hesitated, her eyes darting toward Jason for a split second before snapping back to me. That tiny, fleeting glance was all the confirmation I needed. Oh my God! I breathed, the realization crashing down on me like a tidal wave. It's him, isn't it? You've been... I couldn't even say it, the words too bitter to form. Her face twisted with frustration. You're overreacting, she snapped. Jason and I are friends. That's it. You're making something out of nothing. Then why do you look so guilty? I shot back, my voice raw. Why are you sneaking around at a party, Rachel? If it's nothing, then why lie? For the first time, she faltered. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Her silence was louder than any confession. Jason, the coward, took this moment to make his exit. I'll, let you two talk, he mumbled before slipping past me and disappearing down the hallway. I barely noticed. My world had narrowed to Rachel and the storm brewing between us. Whatever came next, there was no going back. The silence that followed Jason's retreat was suffocating, stretching between us like a rubber band about to snap. Rachel stood there, her arms still crossed, but the bravado she had a moment ago was slipping. Her eyes darted everywhere except to mine, and for the first time in years, I realized I didn't know what she was thinking. I'm not lying, she muttered, breaking the silence. You're making this into something it's not. Oh, come on, Rachel, I exploded, my voice echoing down the empty corridor. You think I'm stupid? You think I don't see what's happening here? Her jaw tightened, and she squared her shoulders. What exactly do you think is happening, huh? She fired back, her tone icy. You saw me talking to Jason. That's it. And now you're losing your mind over nothing. Talking? You call that talking? I pointed toward the door Jason had slipped through, my hand trembling with rage. You were all over him, Rachel, laughing at his jokes, touching him. God, do you even realize how it looked? Her face flushed, but she refused to back down. It's not my fault you're insecure, she shot back, her voice rising. Maybe if you weren't so boring all the time, I wouldn't have to find someone else to talk to. The words hit me like a slap. Someone else to talk to? I repeated, my voice shaking with disbelief. Is that all he is, Rachel? Just someone to talk to? Because it sure as hell doesn't look that way. She threw her hands up in exasperation.
You're impossible.
I can't even have a normal conversation without you turning it into some conspiracy theory. I stared at her, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it might burst out of my chest. I wanted to believe her. I really did, but every instinct, every fiber of my being screamed that she was lying. Do you think I'm blind? I asked quietly, my voice trembling. Do you think I haven't noticed the way you've been acting? The late nights, the excuses, the way you're always glued to your phone. Her eyes widened, but she quickly masked it with a scowl. Oh my God, you're actually spying on me now? That's pathetic, Nick. No, Rachel, you're pathetic. I snapped, the words spilling out before I could stop them. You're standing here, lying to my face, and you don't even have the decency to try and hide it anymore. She glared at me, her lips pressing into a thin line. For a moment, I thought she might finally come clean. But then she let out a bitter laugh and shook her head. You know what? She said, her voice dripping with venom. Believe whatever you want. Clearly, nothing I say is going to change your mind. You've already decided I'm the bad guy here. Because you are. I shot back, my voice cracking with anger and pain. I saw the way you looked at him, Rachel. I'm not imagining that. I'm not crazy. She smirked, a cruel, taunting expression that made my blood boil. Maybe you are, she said, turning on her heel. And I don't have to stand here and take this. Before I could respond, she marched down the hallway, her heels clicking sharply against the tiled floor. She didn't look back. I stood there, my hands clenched into fists, my chest heaving with anger and heartbreak. The walls around me felt like they were closing in, the air thick with the weight of everything unsaid. Something inside me snapped. If Rachel thought she could walk away from this, from me without consequences, she was dead wrong. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Rachel's sharp, confident footsteps faded into the noise of the party, but I couldn't move. My body stayed frozen in that hallway, like my mind was waiting for reality to catch up to what had just happened. A small part of me still hoped I was wrong, that this wasn't what it seemed. But her smirk, God, that smirk, told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't imagining it. She wanted me to feel this way. Something dark uncoiled in my chest. I wasn't going to let her just walk away. I needed proof, real, undeniable proof. If she was going to make me the villain in this, I'd damn well make sure she couldn't hide behind her lies anymore. My hands trembled as I pulled my phone from my pocket. I opened the group chat we shared with a few mutual friends, Olivia, Jason, some others from our social circle. I scrolled back, searching for anything that might connect Rachel and Jason, but the chat was innocent. Too innocent. But then I remembered something. Rachel wasn't as careful as she thought she was. A few weeks ago, she'd handed me her phone to check the GPS while she was driving. I wasn't snooping, but when I minimized the map app, her messages were open. And there, at the top of the screen, was Jason's name. I hadn't thought much of it at the time, assuming they were just exchanging memes or something harmless. Now, I wasn't so sure. I had no access to her phone tonight, but I didn't need it. I knew her passcode. It was my birthday. Ironically fitting, considering what I was about to uncover. With that thought, I headed back into the party. My heart raced as I scanned the crowd for Rachel. It didn't take long to find her. She was near the bar, chatting with Olivia, her laugh too loud, her posture too relaxed. Jason was nowhere in sight. Perfect. I took a deep breath and approached the bar. "Hey, Rachel," I said, forcing my tone to be casual. Her eyes flicked to me, and for a moment, I saw her calculating something. "Nick," she said, her voice laced with feigned cheer. "Decided to stop sulking?" "Yeah, thought I'd grab another drink," I replied, holding up my empty glass. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "Hey, can I borrow your phone? Mine's dead, and I need to text my brother about something." Her eyes narrowed slightly, suspicion flickering across her face. "Why can't you just charge it?" "I forgot my charger," I said smoothly. "Come on, it'll just take a second." She hesitated, and I saw the war in her mind. If she refused, it would look suspicious. But if she gave it to me, well, maybe she thought she'd covered her tracks well enough. With a sigh, she unlocked the phone and handed it to me. "Don't take forever," she muttered. I stepped away from the bar, pretending to focus on typing a message, but my fingers moved with purpose. I opened her messages, scrolling straight to Jason's thread. My stomach churned as I saw it, hundreds of texts, stretching back weeks. I skimmed them quickly, my heart pounding louder with every line. Inside jokes I didn't understand. Late-night messages about how much fun they had. And then the dagger. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about it. When can we do it again?" My vision blurred, but I forced myself to keep scrolling. The reply was worse. "I'll let you know. Gotta keep things quiet for now. Don't want Nick getting suspicious." I wanted to smash the phone. I wanted to scream. Instead, I took a screenshot and sent it to myself. Then I backed out, locking the phone and returning it to Rachel. "Thanks," I said, my voice eerily calm. She smiled like nothing was wrong, like she hadn't just gutted me with her betrayal. But now I had what I needed, and this wasn't over. Not even close. My hands were steady as I slipped my phone into my pocket, but inside, I was on fire. Every word from those messages seared into my brain like a brand. Last night was amazing. Don't want Nick getting suspicious. They weren't even trying to hide it. Not really. They thought I was too blind, too trusting to catch on. That was their first mistake. Rachel went back to laughing with Olivia, her face glowing under the bar's neon lights. She looked so casual, so unbothered, as if nothing in her world could possibly be falling apart. Watching her now, I realized that everything, the affection, the shared smiles, even the fights, had been a performance, and I had been her audience. No more. I stepped away from the bar, needing space to think. The rooftop terrace was nearly empty, the chill of the night air biting against my skin. I paced, my mind racing. Every option ran through my head. Confront her in front of everyone. Blow up Jason's phone. Call her out right now and demand an explanation. But that wasn't enough. No, this betrayal wasn't just a crack in our marriage. It was an earthquake. She didn't deserve an argument, a chance to twist her way out of this. She deserved consequences. That's when the idea came to me. Rachel and I had a shared savings account. It was meant for emergencies, for the future we were supposed to be building together. But right now it felt more like a weapon. I knew exactly how much was in it. Nearly $30,000, carefully saved over the years. It wasn't enough to ruin her entirely, but it would be a start. I took out my phone and pulled up my banking app. The account details were still linked. She hadn't bothered to hide anything there. Maybe she didn't think I'd ever dare touch it. With a few taps, I initiated the transfer to my personal account, the one she never cared to pay attention to. The app confirmed the transaction instantly. Just like that, the savings were gone. I stood there, staring at the confirmation screen, a strange sense of calm washing over me. Rachel wanted to play games? Fine, let's play. As I turned to head back inside, a familiar voice stopped me. Nick! I spun around to see Olivia standing in the doorway, her face partially shadowed. She wasn't holding a drink anymore, and her usual playful smirk was gone. Instead, she looked concerned. What do you want, Olivia? I asked, my tone sharper than I intended. She hesitated, her eyes flicking to the side before meeting mine. I saw your face earlier at the bar, and the way you looked when you left. Did something happen? Why don't you tell me? I shot back, stepping closer. You've been Rachel's best friend for years. You've been covering for her, haven't you? Her eyes widened. What are you talking about? Don't play dumb, I snapped. I know about her and Jason. I saw the messages. So don't stand there and pretend you don't know what's going on. Olivia flinched, guilt flashing across her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. That was all the confirmation I needed. Unbelievable, I muttered, stepping past her. Nick, wait, she called after me. It's not what you think. I stopped and turned, my glare cutting her off mid-sentence. Don't, I said coldly. You don't get to defend this. Not her, not him, not anyone. Stay out of my way, Olivia. Her mouth snapped shut, and I didn't wait for her to respond. I pushed past her and headed back inside. I wasn't done yet. The party was still in full swing, the music pounding so loud it vibrated in my chest. The irony of it all hit me. How could everything feel so normal when my world was imploding? Rachel's laugh floated above the noise, and I spotted her near the DJ booth, tossing her hair and clinking glasses with a group of people I barely recognized. She looked radiant, like she didn't have a care in the world. I clenched my fists. She wouldn't look so carefree for much longer. First, I needed to find Jason. He was the other half of this betrayal, and I wasn't about to let him slip away unscathed. I scanned the room, my eyes darting from face to face. Finally, I caught sight of him leaning against the bar, chatting with some blonde woman who seemed all too interested in him. Perfect. I walked straight up to him, my pulse pounding in my ears. He didn't notice me at first, too busy flashing that fake, easy grin he used on everyone. But when I planted myself in front of him, his smile faltered. Nick, he said, feigning surprise. What's up, man? What's up? I repeated, my voice low and sharp. You tell me, Jason. What the hell are you doing with my wife? The blonde woman's eyes widened, and she quickly backed away, sensing the brewing storm. Jason's grin disappeared completely, replaced by a nervous twitch at the corner of his mouth. Hey, let's not do this here, he said, glancing around. We're at a party, man. Let's talk outside. Oh, now you want to keep things quiet? I hissed, stepping closer. You weren't so discreet when you were sneaking out of here with Rachel, were you? His jaw tightened, and I saw the mask of calm he always wore start to crack. Look, you've got it all wrong. Don't lie to me, Jason. I cut him off, my voice rising. I've seen the messages. I know exactly what's been going on between you two. His face went pale. For a moment, he looked like a deer caught in headlights. But then he recovered, his expression hardening. All right, he said quietly, his voice losing its usual charm. Yeah, fine. It happened. I'm sorry. Okay? But it's not what you think. My vision blurred with rage. Not what I think. You've been sneaking around with my wife, lying to my face, and you think you get to stand there and tell me it's not what I think. Jason raised his hands defensively. Look, I didn't mean for it to happen. It just did. We didn't plan it. Rachel said things weren't great between you two. I shoved him hard. He stumbled back, slamming into the edge of the bar. A few heads turned in our direction, the energy in the room shifting as people realized something was happening. Don't you dare try to blame this on me, I snarled, stepping closer. You're supposed to be my friend. And Rachel. My voice cracked, and I forced myself to swallow the lump in my throat. She's my wife. You don't get to play the victim here. Jason straightened, brushing himself off, his expression dark. Look, I'm not proud of it, okay? But Rachel's not some innocent angel in this either. If you want to blame someone, blame her too. Oh, don't worry, I said, my voice like ice. She's next. The room was practically buzzing now, conversations dropping to whispers as people watched the confrontation unfold.
He didn't cut it.
Let them see. Let everyone know exactly what kind of people Jason and Rachel were. Without another word, I turned and strode toward Rachel. She was still by the DJ booth, oblivious to the chaos brewing just a few feet away. That was about to change. Rachel didn't notice me until I was almost on her, and when she did, her face shifted from carefree to guarded in an instant. She could sense it, the storm she thought she'd dodged finally crashing over her. Nick, she said, forcing a laugh. What's with the look? You look like you're about to start a fight. Oh, I'm way past starting, I said, my voice loud enough to cut through the music. Heads turned as I stepped closer, the energy in the room shifting again, from celebration to tension. Rachel glanced around, noticing the growing audience. Nick, stop, she hissed, her voice low. Not here. Not now. Oh, why not here, Rachel? I spat, refusing to lower my voice. Why not in front of all these people? You didn't seem to care about privacy when you were sneaking off with Jason, did you? Her eyes flared wide, panic flickering in them before she masked it with anger. What are you talking about? She snapped, her tone sharp. You're acting crazy. I laughed, the sound bitter and hollow. Am I? Crazy enough to read the messages you've been sending to my so-called best friend? Crazy enough to see you two sneaking out together? Crazy enough to know exactly what you've been doing behind my back? A gasp rippled through the crowd. Rachel's face flushed a deep red. Not with embarrassment, but with rage. How dare you? She shouted, her voice cutting through the growing murmurs. You're making a scene over nothing. Nothing? I barked, pulling my phone from my pocket. I opened the screenshots I'd taken and held the screen up for her to see. Does this look like nothing to you, Rachel? Last night was amazing? Gotta keep it quiet so Nick doesn't get suspicious? That's your idea of nothing. Her mouth opened and closed, her words failing her for once. The color drained from her face, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. She wasn't scared of me, no. She was scared of what everyone else was seeing. The whispers around us grew louder. People were pointing now, their faces a mix of shock and morbid curiosity. Olivia stood frozen near the bar, her hand over her mouth. Jason, still lingering on the other side of the room, looked like he wanted to disappear. Nick, let's talk about this privately, Rachel finally managed, her voice trembling. This isn't the place. Why not? I cut her off, my voice rising. You weren't worried about privacy when you were lying to me, when you were sneaking around with Jason. Why should I give you that courtesy now? Her face twisted, her fear giving way to anger. Fine, she snapped, stepping closer. Yes, okay, it happened. Are you happy now? Is this what you wanted? To humiliate me in front of everyone. I stared at her, disbelief mixing with the anger boiling in my chest. You humiliated yourself, Rachel, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. You destroyed us. Not me. You. She opened her mouth to respond, but someone in the crowd interrupted. What the hell, Rachel? A voice called out. It was one of our mutual friends, a woman named Jenna, her face etched with shock. Nick doesn't deserve this. How could you do that to him? Rachel's head snapped toward Jenna, her expression venomous. Stay out of it, she snapped, her voice laced with desperation. But the tide had turned. The whispers became full conversations, people exchanging looks of disgust and sympathy. The walls Rachel had so carefully built around her lies were crumbling, and there was nothing she could do to stop it. I took a step back, my chest heaving, my pulse roaring in my ears. The satisfaction I'd expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, all I felt was an aching emptiness. This wasn't a victory, it was a funeral for the life I thought I had. And it was far from over. Rachel's anger erupted in full force now, her mask of composure completely shattered. You're such a damn martyr, Nick, she spat, stepping toward me with fire in her eyes. Always playing the victim, acting like you're so perfect. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed someone else to. The room went deadly silent. Even the DJ stopped the music, his hand hovering over the controls as the tension became unbearable. All eyes were on us. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. So it's my fault now? I asked, my voice eerily steady. It's my fault that you lied, that you cheated, that you destroyed everything we built together? Her lips curled into a sneer. You don't get it, do you? You've been so focused on your precious routines, your boring little life, that you didn't even notice I was miserable. Miserable, I shot back, my voice rising again. You had everything, Rachel. Everything. A home. A husband who loved you. A future. A future? She interrupted, laughing bitterly. You call that a future? Working the same job for 20 years, saving every penny like we're 80 years old already? No excitement. No passion. Just you and your spreadsheets. Her words hit me like daggers, each one sharper than the last. I wanted to scream, to lash out, but instead, I just stared at her, trying to understand how the woman I loved could turn into someone so cold. You're unbelievable, I said quietly, shaking my head. I gave you everything I had, Rachel. I trusted you. And this, I gestured around the room, at the witnesses to her betrayal. This is what I get in return? She crossed her arms, her posture defiant. You're acting like I'm the only one to blame here. But you're not perfect, Nick. You're just as responsible for this as I am. Responsible, I repeated, my voice cracking. I didn't cheat on you, Rachel. I didn't betray you with someone I was supposed to trust. Her face hardened, and she opened her mouth to fire back, but a voice cut through the tension before she could speak. You're unbelievable, Rachel, Olivia said, stepping forward from the crowd. Her face was pale but resolute. Don't you dare try to pin this on Nick. He didn't deserve this. None of us did. Rachel's head snapped toward Olivia, her eyes blazing. What the hell are you talking about? This has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with me, Olivia shot back. I've been your friend for years, Rachel. I've defended you, covered for you, lied for you. And for what? To see you destroy the one good thing in your life. Rachel's expression faltered, just for a moment, before the anger returned. You don't know anything, she hissed. Stay out of this. No, Olivia said firmly. She turned to me, her eyes filled with regret. Nick, I'm sorry. I should have told you sooner. I knew something was going on, but I didn't want to believe it. I didn't want to hurt you. Her words twisted something deep inside me, the last thread of hope snapping. Even Olivia, the person closest to Rachel, had seen it. This wasn't just a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was deliberate, calculated betrayal. I looked back at Rachel, who now seemed smaller somehow, her anger failing to mask the cracks in her armor. "You're done," I said, my voice cold and final. "We're done. And don't think for a second that I'm going to make this easy for you." Her face twisted with defiance, but there was fear behind her eyes now. "You think you can just walk away, Nick? You think you're so righteous, so untouchable?" "No," I said, stepping closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "But I can make sure you lose just as much as I did. Maybe more." Her eyes widened, and for the first time that night, I saw real panic. She knew I wasn't bluffing. I turned and walked away, the crowd parting in stunned silence. There was no going back now. As I pushed through the crowd, I could feel the weight of everyone's stares boring into my back. Whispers trailed behind me, their hushed tones mixing with the low murmur of resumed music. Rachel was still standing by the DJ booth, frozen in place, her fury barely masking the panic I'd seen in her eyes. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I stepped into the hallway again, the noise of the party fading to a dull hum. My hands were shaking, but not from nerves. It was rage, pure and unfiltered, coursing through my veins like fire. Rachel's words replayed in my mind, her attempts to twist the blame, to rewrite the narrative so she could walk away unscathed. No, not this time. I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots of the messages between her and Jason. I stared at them for a moment, letting the reality sink in again. This was my proof, my leverage, the key to making sure Rachel didn't get away with what she'd done. But I needed more. With a few quick swipes, I accessed our shared cloud account. Rachel had been careless, syncing her phone's media to the same account we used to share vacation photos and home videos. Took only seconds to find them. Dozens of photos, some blurry, some crystal clear, all of them damning. Pictures of her and Jason at bars, in cars, in places I didn't recognize. Selfies with her arms wrapped around him, her smile wide and carefree in a way I hadn't seen in years. I saved everything to my private folder. The next step was financial. I opened the confirmation of the earlier transfer, making sure the funds were secure in my personal account. I had control now, not just of the money but of the narrative. Rachel might have been the star of her own little drama, but I was taking over as the director. I knew exactly how this would play out. I crafted an email, attaching the screenshots and photos. The subject line was simple: Rachel and Jason. The truth. I addressed it to a short list of people who needed to know, the ones Rachel and Jason couldn't manipulate. Her parents, my parents, Jason's girlfriend, Emily. My fingers hovered over the send button. Part of me hesitated, a flicker of the old me, the one who wanted to protect Rachel, even now. But that part was small, shrinking under the weight of what she'd done. I hit send. The air in the hallway felt colder now, sharper. I leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly as I watched the confirmation of the email being delivered. There was no going back from this, but I didn't want to go back. Rachel and Jason had made their choices, and now they'd face the fallout. When I returned to the party, I wasn't hiding anymore. My expression must have said it all, because Olivia intercepted me near the bar, her face pale. "Nick," she said quietly, her voice trembling. "What did you do?" "I did what she forced me to do," I replied, my tone flat. "I made sure everyone knows the truth." Her eyes widened, but before she could respond, a commotion broke out near the DJ booth. Rachel was shouting, her voice sharp and panicked as she scrolled through her phone. Jason was beside her now, his face pale as a ghost. They'd seen the email. Good. I grabbed a drink from the bar and raised it slightly, a bitter smile tugging at the corners of my lips. The war had just begun, and I wasn't planning to lose. The chaos erupted almost immediately. Rachel's voice, usually so controlled, was frantic now, cutting through the thrum of the music like a knife. "What the hell is this?" she screamed, holding her phone up to Jason's face. The screen glowed brightly, the email I'd just sent clearly displayed. Jason paled further, stumbling over his words. I don't know, Nick, man, we can talk about this." His voice cracked, desperation dripping from every syllable as he looked across the room to where I stood. I didn't move. I didn't respond. I just stared at him, letting the weight of my silence crush any delusion he had that I'd forgive him. Rachel turned on me next, her face a twisted mix of rage and fear. You think this is funny? She spat, storming toward me, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. You send that to my parents? My boss? Are you out of your damn mind? Finally catching up? I said calmly, taking a sip from my drink. Thought it'd take longer. Her nostrils flared. You had no right. No right to air our personal business to everyone. I laughed bitterly, the sound cutting and cold. No right? Rachel, you destroyed any right I had to respect your privacy the moment you decided to sneak around with Jason. You made this public the second you lied to me, to everyone, and thought you'd get away with it. The room was silent again, everyone too afraid, or too fascinated, to intervene. Olivia stood frozen by the bar, her face tight with guilt and sorrow. Jenna, our mutual friend, was whispering to someone else, her eyes flicking between me and Rachel like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. You're a psycho, Rachel snapped, her voice trembling. You think this makes you look good? You think everyone's going to side with you after this little stunt? I don't care who sides with me, I said, my tone calm but firm. This isn't about winning people over. It's about showing the truth. And the truth is you're a liar and a cheat. And so is Jason. Jason, who had been trying to fade into the background, flinched as his name came up. Look, man, we can work this out. I messed up. Okay? I admit that. But let's not make it worse than it already is. I stepped closer, my calm veneer cracking for the first time as my voice dropped. Make it worse? Jason, you blew up my life. You slept with my wife and thought I just let it slide? No, this isn't me making it worse. This is me making sure you feel even a fraction of what I felt. Jason's mouth opened, but no words came out. Rachel, still burning with anger, stepped between us. That's enough, she hissed. You've made your point. Now grow up and let it go. Let it go, I repeated, incredulous. You still don't get it, do you? You've already lost, Rachel. You lost the second you decided I wasn't enough for you. Her face twisted, and for a moment, I thought she might slap me. Instead, she took a step back, her voice lowering into a venomous whisper. You think you're so righteous, but you're pathetic. You've always been pathetic, and this little performance just proves it. The words stung, but I didn't let them show. Maybe I am, I said, holding her gaze. But at least I'm not a liar. At least I know how to stay loyal. Rachel turned on her heel, storming toward Jason, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Come on, she snapped at him, grabbing his arm. We're leaving. He hesitated, glancing at me with a mixture of guilt and terror. Rachel, maybe we should. I said we're leaving, she barked, dragging him toward the door. I watched them go, the weight in my chest both heavy and strangely light. They were gone, but the damage they'd done would take far longer to repair. As the door slammed behind them, Olivia approached cautiously, her eyes searching mine. Nick, are you okay? I finished my drink in one long swallow, the burn grounding me. Not yet, I said, but I will be. And for the first time all night, I almost believed it. The moment Rachel and Jason disappeared through the door, the party seemed to exhale all at once. Conversations resumed in hushed tones, the music crept back into the air, and the DJ, clearly uncomfortable, tried to lighten the mood with an upbeat track. But no one was dancing. I stayed near the bar, letting the buzz of conversation swirl around me. My phone vibrated relentlessly in my pocket. Calls, messages, notifications, but I ignored them all. I wasn't ready to deal with the flood of reactions from the people I'd emailed. Not yet. Olivia lingered nearby, nursing what looked like a forgotten drink. She kept glancing at me, like she was debating whether to say something. Eventually, she took a deep breath and approached, her voice tentative. Nick, that was intense, she said softly. I turned to her, my face expressionless. That's one way to put it. Her eyes searched mine, guilt flickering across her face. I didn't mean for things to get this far. I should have told you sooner. Stop, I said, holding up a hand. Don't. I don't want to hear it right now, Olivia. She bit her lip, nodding slightly, but she didn't walk away. For what it's worth, she said after a pause. I think you did the right thing. They deserved to be called out. Did they? I asked, my voice hollow. Or did I just sink to their level? Because right now, I don't feel like the good guy in this. Olivia frowned, her brow furrowing. Nick, listen to me. They did this to themselves. You didn't ruin their lives, they made those choices. You just made sure they couldn't hide from them. I wanted to believe her, but the weight in my chest said otherwise. Every angry word I'd shouted, every piece of evidence I'd exposed, every second of the chaos I'd unleashed. It all felt like I'd burned down the house to kill the rats. But then my phone buzzed again, and I pulled it out, more out of habit than interest. The name on the screen made me pause. Rachel's mom. I hesitated, staring at the screen. Rachel had always been close with her parents, and despite everything, I respected them. They were good people. I debated letting it go to voicemail, but my finger moved before I could think better of it. Hello, I said, my voice strained. Nick, came the shaky voice on the other end. It was her mother, Barbara. I just got your email. Is it true? Please, tell me this isn't true. It's true, Barbara. I wouldn't lie about something like this. There was a long silence, and when she spoke again, her voice broke. I don't even know what to say. I'm so sorry, Nick. I had no idea. She paused, taking a deep breath. I don't know what's gotten into her. This isn't the daughter I raised. The lump in my throat grew. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, I said, my voice softening. I didn't want to hurt you or Greg, but I couldn't let it stay hidden anymore. No, she said quickly. You did the right thing. She needs to face this. Both of them do. I wish it didn't have to be like this. Yeah, I said quietly. Me too. We spoke for a few more minutes, her voice wavering between heartbreak and anger. By the time the call ended, my chest felt heavier than ever. I stared at my phone for a long moment before sliding it back into my pocket. The fallout had begun, and there was no stopping it now. The night unraveled quickly after Barbara's call. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing, the flood of notifications a constant reminder of the chaos I'd set in motion. Every few seconds, a new name popped up on the screen. Friends, family, people I hadn't spoken to in years. Each message was a fresh wave of anger, confusion, or sympathy. I skimmed through a few texts. Jenna, holy crap, Nick. I had no idea. Are you okay? Greg, Rachel's dad, call me when you can. We need to talk. Emily, Jason's girlfriend, is this real? Please tell me this isn't real. Emily's name stopped me cold. Of all the people caught in the crossfire, she didn't deserve this. She was collateral damage, blindsided by the same betrayal I was. After a moment's hesitation, I opened her message and typed out a reply.
It's real.
I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but you deserve to know. Her response came almost immediately. Emily. He told me he had feelings for someone else a few months ago. I didn't know it was Rachel. God, Nick, I feel so stupid. I should have seen it. I clenched my jaw, my fingers tightening around the phone. Jason had strung her along just like Rachel had strung me along, both of them pretending to be decent people while lying to our faces. Me, don't blame yourself. They're the ones who lied, not us. She didn't reply right away, and I didn't push. Emily had her own storm to deal with, and I had more than enough to handle on my end. Back in the room, the crowd was thinning. The energy that had once fueled the party was gone, replaced by an awkward tension no one knew how to break. Olivia was still hovering nearby, her drink untouched, while Jenna had moved to the corner, whispering with a small group of friends. I decided I needed air. Stepping out onto the rooftop terrace, I let the cool night air wash over me. The city lights stretched out before me, indifferent to the mess unfolding in my life. For a moment, I let myself just stand there, breathing in the quiet and trying to make sense of the wreckage. But the quiet didn't last. Nick. I turned to see Olivia, her arms wrapped around herself against the chill. She looked hesitant, like she wasn't sure if she was welcome here. What do you want, Olivia? I asked, my voice tired. She stepped closer, her expression unreadable. I wanted to check on you, after everything. I'm fine, I lied, turning back to the view. No, you're not, she said quietly. And that's okay. You don't have to be fine right now. Her words caught me off guard, and for a moment, I didn't know how to respond. I'll get through it, I said finally. I always do. Olivia hesitated, then took another step closer. Nick, I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but don't let this destroy you.
Don't let them destroy you.
Her voice was earnest, almost pleading, and for the first time that night, I felt a flicker of something other than rage. Exhaustion, maybe, or grief. I don't know what's left to destroy, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. They took everything. No, Olivia said firmly. They didn't. You still have people who care about you, people who want to help you get through this. I met her eyes, and for a moment, I saw the truth in her words. The anger inside me softened, just a little, enough to let her words sink in. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Not yet. The fallout was still unfolding, and the worst was likely still to come. The morning after the party felt like waking up in the middle of a war zone. My phone was practically on fire, vibrating nonstop with calls and messages. By now, Rachel and Jason had likely seen the full extent of the email blast. The proof was out there, irreversible, undeniable. I rolled over in bed, staring at the ceiling. The dull ache in my chest reminded me that while I'd won the first round, the fight was far from over. Rachel wasn't the kind of person to let this go quietly. And Jason? He was too much of a coward to face me, but he'd probably be scrambling to salvage whatever scraps of his reputation he could. The first call I answered was from Greg, Rachel's father. His voice was tight, every word clipped. Nick, I don't even know where to start. Rachel called us last night in tears, saying you humiliated her in front of everyone. Tears? I said bitterly, sitting up. She wasn't crying when she was sneaking around with Jason. Did she mention that part to you? She did, he admitted, his tone softening. She said it was a mistake, that she let things go too far. But Nick, is there any way you two can work through this? I know what she did was wrong, but marriage is... Greg. I cut him off, my voice flat. I respect you, but don't ask me to fix this. She didn't make a mistake. She made choices, over and over again, and she dragged Jason into it, knowing he was my friend. There's no coming back from that. He sighed heavily, the sound filled with disappointment. I don't know what to say, Nick. I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't raise her to be this way. I swallowed the lump in my throat. Greg had always been a good man, someone I admired. This wasn't his fault, but the weight of it still landed on him. Thanks, Greg. I appreciate it. After the call ended, I leaned against the edge of the bed, staring at my phone. Another message popped up, this time from Emily. Emily, I broke it off with Jason this morning. He came home drunk, tried to explain everything, but I don't care. I'm done. I typed back quickly. Me, good. You deserve better than him. Her reply came almost instantly. Emily, so do you. Don't let them win. The next text was from Rachel. It was longer than anything I'd ever seen her write before. A frantic wall of text trying to explain, justify, and twist the situation to make herself the victim. Rachel, Nick, I don't even know how to start. I never wanted it to get this far. I was lonely, okay? I felt invisible, and Jason was there for me. I never meant to hurt you. What you did last night, sending that email, was cruel. You didn't just hurt me, you hurt my family, our friends. Was that your plan? To ruin me? Because it worked. I hope you're happy. I stared at the message for a long moment, my jaw tightening with every word. She still didn't get it. After everything, she still thought she was the one who had been wronged. My response was simple. Me, Rachel, you ruined yourself. Don't contact me again unless it's about the divorce. I hit send and blocked her number. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sliver of peace. It wasn't full closure, not yet, but it was the first step. Rachel and Jason had burned everything to the ground. Now it was my turn to rebuild. The days after the confrontation were quiet, but not in the peaceful way. It was the kind of silence that comes after a storm, when the wreckage is laid bare, and you're left standing there trying to figure out where to even start. Rachel didn't try to contact me again, not directly, at least. Instead, I heard through Olivia that she'd moved in with Jason, though not without complications. Emily had kicked Jason out of their shared apartment, and the word going around was that their relationship wasn't faring much better in the harsh light of day. They were fighting constantly, their once thrilling secret now exposed for everyone to see. Good. They deserved each other. I filed for divorce within the week. The process was cleaner than I expected. Rachel didn't even try to contest it. I think she knew she had no leverage, not after the email, the screenshots, and the scorched earth I left behind. The shared savings account? Not a word from her about it. With that chapter closing, I turned my focus inward. The anger that had fueled me during the fallout started to fade, leaving behind something quieter but no less heavy. I wasn't just grieving the betrayal, I was grieving the person I thought Rachel was, the life I thought we'd built together. It was a slow process, unlearning the love I'd poured into her for so many years. Olivia reached out a few times, always checking in, her guilt over staying silent still evident in every conversation. I didn't blame her, not really. She'd been caught in the middle of something messy, something no one could have navigated perfectly. "Nick," she said during one call, "I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm proud of you. You stood up for yourself. You didn't let them walk all over you." Her words stuck with me, not because I felt proud, but because it reminded me that standing up for myself was something I'd neglected for too long. I'd let Rachel's needs, her desires, overshadow everything, ignoring the growing void in our marriage because I thought that's what love meant. Never again. A few weeks later, I moved into a new apartment on the other side of the city. It wasn't big or fancy, but it was mine. The walls were bare, the furniture mismatched, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was starting fresh. One night, as I unpacked a box of old photos, I found one of Rachel and me from our honeymoon. We were standing on a beach, smiling at the camera, her arm wrapped around my waist. I stared at it for a long moment before tucking it into the bottom of the box. Not out of spite, but because it belonged to a different version of me, a version I no longer wanted to carry. If there's one thing I've learned from this mess, it's this: trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. And never let someone convince you that your pain is invalid. Love isn't about sacrificing yourself for someone who wouldn't do the same for you. I'm still figuring things out, still piecing myself back together. But for the first time in a long time, I'm looking forward instead of backward. And that's enough for now.